Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the peaqosystem AMA. My name is James. I am the community manager here with EOT Labs and peaq, and I'm once again delighted to have you guys with me on this Thursday, February 1st. Crazy. January's already come and gone, and we are well into the new year, and we are very excited to be continuing our Welcome to the Peaqosystem AMA. We have another amazing project joining us today. We have AYDO.ai. I hope you guys are excited as I am. We're going to get to learn all about them, what they're going to provide to the Peaqosystem. And as always, feel free to drop any questions in the Twitter thread. You know how this works. We'll get to those as we go through and at the end if you have any specific questions. But as always, I like to do this little introduction, and then I like to give people a few minutes to roll in while I go refresh my coffee and get ready for this. So if you haven't already, share the links with your channels, with your friends, with your projects, with your communities. Let's see how many people we can get in here. Let's have a good time. And I look forward to starting this off just in a couple of minutes. So as always, we will see you in a little bit. Okay, let's get going. Yeah. Welcome everybody. For those of you who are new, again, my name is James, and I'm the community manager and host for our Welcome to the Peaqosystem AMAs. We have now started doing this weekly. We have so many great projects that we want to introduce to you guys. We have made this now a weekly AMA series where we are going to be introducing new projects that are joining the Peaqosystem. And when we have the opportunity, we're going to reintroduce and provide updates on projects that are already building in the Peaqosystem. So please look forward to having these every week on Thursdays. We try to set these off around 3 p.m. CET, but you always have to make sure, because some projects, of course, are located in other parts of the globe. But we are happy to have you here. So again, for those of you that are new, please join us. Please drop any questions in the chat, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to come join us. So before we dive into it with AYDO, we'll get a little housekeeping out of the way to begin with. I like to do the same things every AMA. I like consistency. I'm a man of routine. And the first is to welcome everybody. But the second is to also say that, every week I get alerted to more and more projects who are trying to pretend to be us. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and there are a lot of imitators out there. So please always be aware when you are joining one of our channels that they are an official channel. How do we do that? We can verify those links from our webpage or from our official Telegram and our official Discord. And you can always hit me up. I'm in all of the channels, and verify that you are in a real official account. So please watch out for that. Web3 is sometimes not as safe as we would hope it would be, and we just want to look out for your safety. For those of you who are part of the ambassador program with peaq, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here and supporting the project. For those of you who want to be part of the ambassador program, applications are still open for the ambassador candidate role. We will be announcing our first intake of full ambassadors coming up mid-month. So look forward to that. After this, we're going to continue to have these sessions. One thing we're doing in 2024 is we're really going to ramp up the communication with you guys, the community, because that's something that's important to me. And I think with all of the news that's coming out, we are obligated to keep you guys in the loop so you can help us support these amazing projects like AYDO. So without further ado, AYDO. Welcome. AYDO is a universal bridge between IoT devices and DePIN blockchains. And the AYDO Web3 bridge empowers users to own, control, and verifiably stream IoT data from different devices, from diverse vendors, and from different protocols to blockchains. So I think this is something that's really important. You may have noticed on our Twitter, we have been promoting our new data verification system, peaq Verify. So I think this is a very timely AMA, and I'm super excited to learn more about AYDO today. So Alexander, welcome. do believe you are muted. So one thing we didn't do, guys, this time is we didn't do mic checks. So we might have to bear with us while we have some technical difficulties and issues. Alex, can you hear me? I can't hear you. Cool. For those of you that are new to the community, we have a bit of a running joke that whenever I do a Discord call, often there's a permissions glitch in our Discord where I will talk for a long time and nobody can hear me. So it's always always an exciting thing when we do have these technical difficulties. So, but as you guys know me, I have no problem filling the dead space. So while we wait for Alex to rejoin, because I think Elon is trying to rug us once again. If Elon's listening, I do love you. We appreciate you. Yeah, we'll keep this going. So we have AYDO with us this week. And we've already announced the next AMA. The next AMA is going to be next Thursday at 3 p.m. CET, and that's going to be with Stakes, another amazing project. So this is one thing that we talked about late last year, which was the fact that we have so many projects that are joining us, that we used to do this monthly, then we moved to every 2 weeks, and now we're going to be doing this every week. So, it is a commitment for you guys to join us all these times, but I think it's important that we do support all of the projects that are building in our ecosystem, aka the peaqosystem, because that's, really, we're the layer one, we're the base, and it's our job to support all of these projects. So I do greatly appreciate you guys being here with us today. Okay, Alexander is back. We have moved him up to speaker. There we go. Success. Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you everyone for their patience. Really appreciate it.
I think living in a tech industry, I think, these things are not unanticipated. So it does happen on a regular basis, but glad to hear your voice. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. So, shall we start, I guess?
Yeah, absolutely. I did a little bit of an introduction, as you may or may not have heard, and I filled in some dead space, but, I think we can jump right into it. Like, please, take some time, introduce yourself, introduce us to AYDO, what is it? What is your project? What services are you offering? And, we can start with a simple one-liner and you can dive as deep as you would like to. Yeah, go for it. Oh no, we've been rugged again. There we go. We're back.
We created a bridge between IoT devices and the Web3. And the idea behind it is currently there are a ton of legacy devices, ton of legacy infrastructure, which is not connected to Web3. And most of the projects out there are trying to push their own hardware as a mean of getting to it. We are taking a different approach. We want to connect existing infrastructure, existing legacy devices, and bring them over, making it easier for the users and easier for the businesses to become part of Web3.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's great. We often talk, when we have these AMAs and when I'm talking to people about this industry, it always comes up every week, where we talk about how are we going to bridge the gap between Web 2 and Web 3? How are we going to get people who aren't, blockchain enthusiasts to join blockchain and move their devices onto the chain? And I think having, a project where we are, essentially taking devices that people are already familiar and comfortable with and allowing them to integrate, is definitely, an approach that is absolutely needed if we're going to onboard the next billion users.
Absolutely. Can't agree more.
Yeah. So one light-hearted question that I always like to start off with is how did you come up with the name? How did you come up with the branding? AYDO is definitely a unique name.
Yeah, we were lucky to have it. We wanted something short, but something that will capture the ideas behind the project. I mean, I would say the soul of the project. And AYDO came up as an abbreviation of attain your data ownership. So basically, take your data ownership back to your hands, decide what you do with your data, connect it, sell it, or keep it to yourself. So we just want to change the perspective on the data here.
Yeah, it's great. And I think it really, it does illustrate one of the main benefits and main aspects of what you're trying to do, which is, owning your data. And that's definitely one of the big things that we hear from the Web 2 world, especially with these IoT devices, is, the fact that we don't own our own data. So it definitely speaks to what you're trying to accomplish. So with AYDO and sort of bringing legacy devices into this blockchain framework and allowing this, I guess, could you go a little deeper into how this impacts sort of ordinary individuals and what benefits, people with these legacy devices are going to be able to attain using your protocol?
Sure. In general, if you take a look at IoT devices, they're not that expensive anymore. If you take the existing generalistic IoT sensors, IoT switches, and stuff like that, the price have come down dramatically over the last 20 years, and a ton of those devices have been produced. We're talking about roughly 3,400 type of devices from over 400 different producers, and probably tens, if not hundreds of millions of those devices worldwide. And I'm talking about just specific protocol here, about Zigbee. And then you have Z-Wave, Modbus, RTSP, let alone Wi-Fi. That's a number of billions. So those devices are pretty cheap, but they have no connectivity to the Web3. In fact, when you take those protocols, they don't directly communicate to the internet. They need some intermediary. And that's where we come in. So instead of a person or a group of developers or a business trying to figure out the way to connect a Zigbee device to the internet and to the Web3, we will provide them a toolbox where they can easily do the connection, focus on their main goals, such as, let's say, making a good business, a good product, or developing an amazing tool.
Cool. So then is this aimed specifically at the manufacturers and the businesses, or is this something that everyday users can also take advantage of?
So it's kind of both, but the main focus is individuals, and we wanted to make easy for people who are not who don't have IoT background or don't have any specific like developer background to do the connection. So we don't have to go to manufacturer to implement that. You just need to get, like, if you have a Zigbee device, for example, you will be able to connect it um, through our solution. And we will provide both a software solution where you can download it and install it on Raspberry Pi or anything similar. Or we're also gonna offer a hardware solution, sort of a pre-made, pre-installed, pre-tailored, so you can just buy it, turn it in, and it works out of the box.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that was going to be one of my questions, is that with this, would I as a user need to buy specific hardware to connect my device?
So that's probably running ahead of myself, but yeah, so you don't need to do that. So basically, if you already have a Raspberry Pi, that's what we're gonna start with, but we're gonna expand the ecosystem of the devices down the road. But if you already have a Raspberry Pi, you will be able to install it there. And depending again, if you have the Zigbee connector there, that's your AYDO hub. There you can connect all the Zigbee devices you want. And so that would be more tailored for people who want to dig into the IoTs themselves. But I believe that regular businesses are also going to benefit from becoming a part of the Web3 ecosystem and becoming part of the DePIN. So for that, we're going to have a pre-made, pre-installed solution where they just take it out of the box, follow easy steps, and it's up and running.
Yeah, that's great. The easier we can make these things for people to adopt, I think the better it's going to be. Personally, I've always been a big advocate of, making things, as simple as possible. I always tell the same story, which is, my friends and my relatives, they use credit cards because they can just swipe them and they don't have to think about it and everything works and they don't need to understand it. And so as we bring devices and as we bring DePIN to that level, then I think it really benefits, everybody, because there are some, amazing benefits to having devices, working in a Web3 environment and on blockchain. And, I think we've kind of touched on that with data ownership. And that kind of, it kind of leads into my next question, which is, what kind of transformative impact is AYDO currently having, and what do you foresee in the future, as far as, impact in the industry?
So when it comes to us personally, when it comes to AYDO, we think the approach towards data is the biggest change. So back in the day, I mean, this story goes over and over again, probably in all of the podcasts out there, but the data used to be owned by third parties, centralized institutions and stuff like that, and the user was the one who was getting dinged. We want to change this around. So we want to give the users the ownership of the data and the ability to decide. A lot of people don't really value their privacy that much, and they want to share the data or sell the data, but currently they don't have a piece of a pie. We want to provide that. And for those who want to keep their data and want to know for sure that it's secured and it's not shared, nobody has access to it, we also want to provide that assurance. We want to provide proofs that, yes, your data is safe. So basically, for us, the change should be the data ownership. For the industry itself, I think it's going to go through big expansion, and I think in the near future. Because when you think about blockchain in general, it made a lot of promises of bringing the real economy over, bringing real businesses over. But thus far it went probably to the DeFi at most, and all the production, all of the infrastructure, all of the just regular businesses, they're still lagging behind, and some haven't even came aboard yet. So that's where we see the change. Getting that ability to connect those businesses, getting ability to monitor those businesses is going to be the next engine for the blockchain growth in the future. We also foresee a lot of new players coming in the field, and we foresee big companies adopting it more and more.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's, those are some really important changes that we're going to see. And I agree. I think we're going to see a huge expansion in DePIN in general. Once, we can cross that Web 2 bridge, so to speak, where we are making it easy and we are showing people that they can control their data. Again, conversations all the time happening about, the big data collectors and what they're doing with it. And, when we talk about geolocation data, especially, it's like, all of these companies that whose maps are on your devices, are using your device and using your energy to collect data and then sell it for a profit. And, being able to control who does that and, and help projects, deepen projects that are fighting for data privacy and data security, I think is very important. Yeah. So with DePINs, a lot of them are able to benefit from shared data across, specifically the peaq network. As you're enabling legacy devices to essentially bridge onto the peaq network, do you see any opportunity, or what opportunities do you see for collaboration in this sense, between, the devices that you're bringing on and other DePINs that may start building on peaq?
So when we think about the peaq ecosystem and basically the collaboration of the projects, I think the more collaboration, the better, especially when it comes to data, because a lot of IoT based companies, a lot of AI companies, a lot of basically most of the companies who use data would benefit from having more of the data lakes, and the more collaboration we're going to see within the ecosystem and between the projects, the better. On our side, we basically can expand the data sources for a lot of projects. One of them I would say is actually a relative newcomer to peaq is Silencio. The guys do work with the data, but they currently have not a limited but not very wide sources of those data. So we can bring more IoT devices over to them where they can collect it from different existing sensors and increase both the user base as well as the clarity of data and the amount of data. And that similar approach can be applied to pretty much everyone. Let's say even carbon offset companies. A lot of governments, states, and just basically NGOs try to stimulate people to reduce their carbon footprint, and they do it in different ways. But one of them, and probably the most impactful, would be changing of behavior. So how do you incentivize somebody to change their behavior? Well, you reward them. So if you can monitor, and again, voluntarily, if the person wants to show that he reduces his electricity consumption or gas consumption or water consumption, he can prove it, and for that he can get the rewards. So for example, the tokenized carbon offsets can be a way of incentivizing. It can be NFTs, for example, as a symbolic way of incentivizing. But to do that, you need a way to prove that the person changed the behavior, or that basically that there was some reduction in consumption. So that's where we come in. That's just one of the use cases, like the generalistic I'm talking about. But to do that, you need to stream the data, and that's where we come in. We can provide that easy way of collecting the data from IoT devices and streaming it to the system, where the businesses can decide what they want. They want to reward the user, or they want to tokenize the offsets or the carbon saved or whatever else. So for us, the more sensors we bring into the ecosystem, the better. The more data sources the project is going to have, the better, both for peaq ecosystem as well as for the whole DePIN sector.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that, the industry is still building up on is the number of devices, the number of sensors, the amount of data, because, the industries, the Web2 industries that we are, quote unquote competing with have millions, in some cases billions of sources of data. So they get a complete data set. So, I think these are definitely important factors, and having having this bridge, having a way to get these legacy devices, streaming data to DePINs, is extremely important and really exciting. I mean, let's be honest. I think, having projects like yourself that are enabling this, as I said earlier, not only is going to drive mass adoption of blockchain technology, but I think it's really opening the gate for a lot more opportunity for DePINs to emerge, because I would imagine that there are a lot of people that would love to start a DePIN, but that's their concern. Like, how do we get enough data to make this work? How do we get enough data to make this relevant? And I know that that's a conversation that we've had with some of the DePINs, that are building on peaq. It's like, how do we drive the number of devices up? And with AYDO enabling legacy devices and non Web3 manufactured devices to provide that data, that opens up, a huge opportunity for that.
Yep, and I think ideally we want to arrive at the point where Web3, the PIN sector, is boring, generic, but as well as profitable. So I hope at some point in the future we're going to be where businesses, small business owners, big business owners, apartment owners, whatever they do, they see the benefit. It's easy for them to implement, and it's quick. And we want to bring that closer.
Yeah, and that all of that combined with incentivization, the fact that you can be rewarded for providing that data and for hooking up your devices, I think that's really important. And I mean, that's, the basis of DePIN as we understand it now. So, I know, people who aren't as familiar with technology kind of shy away from it until you say, well, not only can we assure your data privacy and security, but you can also be rewarded, and see actual money. Then we're going to get a lot of adoption of that. And I mean, there are people in this, AMA today that I can see that I know have many DePIN devices. So it's working, and it's great to see.
That's great. The community expanding.
Yeah. So now we've kind of gone into a broad topic, and the ones that I love. And so what do you think, we've touched on it a little bit, but with AYDO enabling these legacy devices and, where we're at in the DePIN industry and the DePIN sector right now, what do you think is next? What do you think is going to be the next kind of big, step with DePIN?
So, again, I'm more of a business-oriented person. But from technical standpoint, I would say the ZK proofs adoption would be important for big players to come over. So I know peaq has a partnership with Bosch, but I think even more partnerships are here to come for the ecosystem, and for a lot of players to come over, there is some reputational risks in case of their data breaches and stuff like that. So having ZK proofs would be important. I think also that peaq provided a great framework recently regarding the data proof that the sensors wasn't played with. I think it may not be ideal, but I think it's a major step towards the solution, and I think that brings also the risks down for the businesses. So that's regarding like the next big steps to come. But for me, I think realistically, like the day the industry going to change is when we reach the critical adoption and when we become easy to adopt by regular users. So when regular people can, yet become a part, provide some value and get some rewards in return, when that becomes again easy to do, I think that would be the point of like exponential growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I did warn you that there might be some questions from the audience, and somebody in the Discord just asked a good question that I think, we can tackle here because it's relevant to this conversation. And that's, from Hassan. Thanks, Hassan. And he asks, how, how or do you store your data? Um, and what is the approach for privacy, that you are taking?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Hazan. So when it comes to storing, we want to do the decentralized storage. So ideally, somebody who already with the peak. We do think also about IPFS here, but we want to avoid having the central point of the data accumulation. Now, regarding the privacy, that's an easy one. We just don't want to have access to your data, and that's it. You don't have access, there is no concern about privacy. Simple as that. Hope that answers it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's important, and decentralized data storage is, one of these sectors that's huge and up and coming, and definitely going to be a major, a major player in DePIN.
Yeah.
And I
I
think,
think you can have one
what,
without the other, especially with if you talk about Web3, having decentralized storage, having decentralized computation, at least as a part, and ideally just for the whole process is a must.
yeah, absolutely, because we are talking about a significant amount of data, from, hundreds of thousands of devices and millions of users. So it is really important that those are integrated, seamlessly together. And so it's definitely a sector that, we here at Peaq are very interested in. And we know there are some great projects out there that are looking at that. And we're, really happy that everybody's considering that. Yeah, good question. Um, I'm just quickly scrolling through the Twitter thread. Yeah, we're good. We're good. And still great on time. Cool. I've lost my cheat sheet. I opened up too many tabs, so I'm trying to find it again. Um, so, you've mentioned a couple of times, and, you think that once users can easily, you know, put their devices onto these Web3, these DePIN networks, easily and quickly, that's going to be driving some of the mass adoption and expansion in the network. And I guess that kind of leads me into, the next question, which is, if somebody wants to get involved with AYDO right now, what are the best ways of keeping up with your project and being kept in the loop, so to speak, for when, you're launched and we can use your products to do these things?
Sure. So when it comes to following the project, currently the best ways are Twitter as well as our Telegram channel. We also started a Discord group, but I would say if you want to see most of the updates, especially and the historic updates, Telegram and Twitter would be the best. We do renew our website, so if you subscribe to the mailing list, you will get an update when we release the new light paper and more information in details. And regarding the product, we're working with peaq currently, and hopefully within the next quarter, we will release the first thing you can test and see how it works. And we would love to get your feedback on that.
Yeah, that's great. So for those of you listening, You can find AYDO at aydo.ai on the web or aydo_AI on X/Twitter. And I know from the website, you can find the link to the Telegram group as well. And I just signed up to the mailing list. Literally, I just signed up right now. So I would encourage everybody to also sign up to the mailing list, just so we get to know when these new features, functionalities, website, all of this stuff is coming, because, I really think this is, a huge step in the direction of mass adoption. It's a huge step in the direction of expanding, DePIN as a sector, as an industry. And we all need to be supporting, AYDO. So, highly recommend doing it. It's a great project. So
Thank you.
what's next on the roadmap? Are there any new developments? I know you just mentioned that you're going to be launching a new website soon, and that we have, so maybe in the next quarter sometime we'll get some updates and maybe a test version. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share?
Don't want to release too much, but again, when it comes to Zigbee devices, and for those of our listeners who already have them, you will have this opportunity to try our concept out. So get your Raspberry Pi and Zigbee connector and subscribe to the mailing list. When it comes to the longer term development, though, I think ZK proof is one of the things we definitely gonna add or find a way to add. But that's definitely on the roadmap. Hard to tell about the timelines.
Yeah, it's understandable. I'm always people are always asking for alpha, but these things take time. And ZK knowledge is another huge topic that we should cover one day in a big AMA, because it's definitely another buzzword that we hear a lot lately. So glad to hear that's going to be part of that as well. Yeah. So this has been amazing. Thank you very much for taking the time to explain this to us. And I have one more question, because I have my IoT devices here. So what are some examples of Zigbee devices? So as an IoT, let's say that somebody isn't familiar with IoT and I just know my Amazon devices and my Google devices. What's a Zigbee device?
So Zigbee is just a way of communication for IoT devices. So when producer makes a device, they just try to find the most efficient, not always, but most of the time, they try to find the most efficient way to send the data. So a lot of time people think that when it comes to smart devices, it's Wi-Fi. The thing with Wi-Fi is very energy consuming, energy hungry. So let's say you have a Wi-Fi microphone or Wi-Fi camera or Wi-Fi sensor, the battery may last you, I don't know, depending on the battery, but maybe a day if you're lucky. We talk about Zigbee, it can last you half a year, or even more, depending on the type of the device you have. It's going to have the same functionality, but again, the energy changes are hundreds of multiples of times. So that's when it comes to the protocol of the communication. Now, when it comes to the IoT devices themselves, again, it's limited by producer's desire. Can be microphones, can be sensors of temperature, air quality control, light sensors, can be switches, depending on the producer desire. Can you tell you one thing? There is no lack of those devices. If you go for anything, if you go to Amazon and type just Zigbee and then whatever you need, you're probably going to find it. And if you want to do connection again through the Raspberry Pi, just type Zigbee connector. Again, it's going to cost a couple of bucks, and it's very widespread. Just a lot of time people don't realize they have it, but they do have it.
Right. Cool. Thank you for the explanation. That's great. Yeah. Those are all the questions I have today. If you again, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today. This has been super informative. I've had fun today. I've learned a lot, so I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I did it
And if
when
you
I
have,
couldn't connect at the beginning. I did it, but later it became much much better. And guys,
uh,
if anybody has any questions and they want to ask, come to our Twitter page, post them there, or just DM me directly. Would love to answer them. Would love to basically get to know you and you to get to know us and AYDO.
yeah, yeah, we have a great community, and I know that they're very appreciative of you taking the time. So hopefully you'll see a lot more traffic hitting up the website. Hopefully people are signing up to the mailing list right now and following you on X and looking for that Telegram group. So yeah, and technical issues, they follow me around. I don't know what I've done to the Discord and Twitter gods to offend them, but I do have to solve that at some point. So not a problem. All part of the fun. I don't know if you heard the story I told earlier, but this happens probably more often than it doesn't.
Oh,
But it's all good. Cool. Well, everybody else, thank you for taking 45 minutes out of your day to listen to AYDO and myself. As I said earlier, we host these AMAs weekly with these amazing projects that are building on peaq. So if you haven't already, one last time, I'll say, please follow AYDO, follow their socials, support their project. I think what they're doing is really important for the DePIN sector and the Web3 space, and we are so happy to have them building on peaq and working with us. So until next week, thank you again. Have a good week, and we will see you in the socials.
thank you guys.
Okay, bye
Bye.
everybody.